Nick Sharver on IRS.com. Today we're going to talk Tax 101 and W-2s. So what exactly is a W-2? A W-2 is a wage and tax statement. Now that tax form W-2 is a document that employers are required to send employees and the IRS. It contains your wage and salary information as well as the taxes withheld from your paychecks for Social Security related reasons. These withholding taxes are sent directly to the IRS by your employer, and they act like a credit towards the income taxes that you must pay for the year. The W-2 form also reports the Social Security tax, aka FICA, to the Social Security Administration. Now, who must file a W-2? Employers are actually required to file the W-2 for each employee. They must report the wages that are paid to each employee to the IRS and Social Security Administration. Now, the employees will use the W-2 form that they receive from the employer to prepare and file their 1040 and their income tax. So taking a look at this form, this is what the employer will file, and this is pretty common what your employee will receive and use to prepare and file their tax return. When are the W-2 forms due? Remember, the W-2 tax form is a responsibility of the employer. You as an employee just get a paper copy. Providing you with an up-to-date W-2 is the employer's obligation, and it's usually something the payroll provider or the team in charge of financial records at the company you work for would do. Employers are required to complete this form for each of their employees, and they must deliver it to each employee by January 31st of the calendar year. W-2 forms will report all the wages and taxes of the employees of that business for the prior calendar year. Now, what does the W-2 form tell us? It provides all that important information that you use to file your personal tax return. It's going to report your total wages. It's going to report any tips that you received. It's going to report any contributions to retirement plans. It's going to report any contributions to a health savings account. It's also going to report, and this is important, the federal, state, and local taxes that your employer withheld that you paid throughout the year to the IRS. So let's do a deeper dive into this W-2 tax form. Boxes A through F cover employer and employee identification information. Box 1 is going to show the total taxable compensation that an employee was paid throughout the year. This includes wages, tips, bonuses, and life insurance benefits. So box 1 is the total amount of compensation that you received from your employer. Box 2 shows us the income taxes withheld from the employee's paycheck throughout the year. Now, remember, these taxes that were taken out of your paycheck work as a credit towards paid income taxes when filling out your 1040. You as an employee dictate how much is withheld from that paycheck and how much ends up being withheld throughout the year when you complete your W-4 form, typically on the onboarding process when you first are hired with your employer. You are allowed to change your W-4 and your withholdings throughout the year. Now, boxes 3 through 6. Box 3 and 5 show the amount of wages that are subject to Social Security and Medicare taxes. These figures may be different from the total taxable compensation listed in box 1. And box 4 and 6 show how much money was withheld for each specific tax. Boxes 7 and 8 show the amount of tip money an employee has reported to an employer. Box 8 specifically shows any additional tip income the employer has allocated to an employee that was not reported in box 7. Now, box 9, it's grayed out. Why? It's no longer necessary, and instead of the IRS creating a completely new form, they have just grayed it out. It's irrelevant. Box 10 reports the total amount of dependent care expenses and services daycare facilities that were paid for or provided by the employer. Box 11 is any amount of deferred compensation from an employer's non-qualified plan or non-governmental pension plan, such as a 401k, etc. Box 12 shows any other types of compensations or reductions to an employee's taxable income. This includes things like contributions to a 401k. Each item will have a code composed of a letter followed by a number. Box 13 contains 3 checkboxes. An employer will check these boxes if, number 1, an employer worked as a statutory employee not subject to federal tax withholding. Number 2, the employee participated in an employer-sponsored retirement plan like a 401k. Or 3, the employee received sick pay through a third party like an insurance policy. Box 14 gives an employer space to include any other tax information that did not fit into the other boxes. That's all it's there for. Box 15 is the employer's state tax identification number. And box 16 through 20 reports the employee's total taxable income at the state and local levels, as well as the amount of taxes withheld for each of those governments. Now, why do you need a W-2? Well, if you're an employee, you need a W-2 in order to file an accurate income tax return, Form 1040, with the IRS. When preparing your annual return, you're going to use Form W-2 to report earnings and taxes withheld from that income. If you had more than one employer during the year, you're going to use multiple W-2s to complete your taxes. What if you lost your W-2? How do you replace it? Well, number 1, don't panic. You're going to start by contacting your employer. They should have a copy of your W-2 form. The HR departments usually take care of this type of paperwork. They can mail it to you, or they can even email it to you. Just make sure they have your updated mailing address if you elect to mail, as that's the number 1 reason W-2s get lost. If you can't contact your employer, you can attempt to contact the payroll processing company if they utilize one, such as ADP or Paylocity, and see if you can't just log in and download your W-2 directly from them, or just give them a call. But your third option is going to be to contact the IRS. Though it's frustrating, you do have some options there. So if you don't get a response from your employer by, say, February 14th, you can call the IRS support line, and they can reach out to your employer on your behalf. This may help them get motivated to respond, but you'll need to provide the IRS some basic information when you give them a call. If you've exhausted all of those options and you still can't receive your W-2, there is a Form 4852, which stands for Substitute for Form W-2. You'll need to estimate your income and federal taxes withheld as close to accurately as you can, and keeping in mind that there might be a delay in the filing of your tax return and subsequent tax refund as the IRS works to verify your estimations. Well, what do we do when we need a W-2 from prior year and maybe the employer's out of business and you actually need a copy of that W-2? Well, you have one of 2 choices. You can request a copy of your tax return, Form 4506, and with it, you will get paper copies. And the W-2 that you sent in with your return will come in that copy form, paper form. Please note, the processing time is about 90 days, and you're typically looking at a fee of around $50 to get a paper copy of that tax return for that year, which would include any subsequent forms you filed with it, including the W-2. A faster way, if you need the information that was reported against you, the income information, you can request what's called your wage and income transcript from the IRS, and you can do that online, and that's the recommendation if you're just looking for accurate information that you can't find on your tax return for that specific year for some reason.